Hi, Faust. Welcome to the show.
John, it's a pleasure to be spending time with you today. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. I was going through some of your books, and your latest one, they all have to do with some psychology, some fixing parts of ourselves that, well, all of us have need to fix ourselves a little bit, of course. And I'm really looking forward to talking about your books. Why don't you tell us first a little bit about yourself, what your profession is, and how you got to this point where you've written a series of books and helping people to fix themselves?
Sure. John, I've been a psychologist for 4 decades now. And, when you do this work long enough, you kind of know what works, what doesn't work so well. So I put together a program I called the Process Way of Life, just processes we need to use to be happy people. Uh, uh, After about 33 years of practicing, I said, I'd like to bring this to a bigger stage. uh, Kids were out of the house and a lot more free time. So I said, let's start writing and did the first book, the Fix Yourself Handbook, which just took off and people, love the way we did it. I do short, very short chapters and I give action steps. Okay, based on this information, this is what you need to do. That sold well, and we kept the design, and I've done 4 books since that time. One on anxiety, one depression, one with anger, and now the new one, the Fix Your Addiction Handbook. So it's been a very enjoyable ride, and we're getting a lot of people that are saying, yeah, this is helping me out.
Excellent. Are you self-published or are you working with a small publishing house or what?
What I did, when we first started, I started with the agents and the whole deal. And, it was, well, we'll take this and this publisher is going to buy this and we'll change this. And I thought, that's not the way I want to go. So I put together my own team, people who have been in the publishing industry, copy editor, publisher, agent, publicist, all those kinds of things. So it's kind of a cross between the old traditional way of doing things and we self-publish. So we do pretty much what a publishing house does, but we keep you know, the
You maintain
control.
control. Yeah,
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah. It's a big difference from, say, 30, 40 years ago. Psychologists were writing books back then too, but of course it was all done through major publishing houses. Whereas I understand now that's very difficult to do, but with the advent of being able to put together a team, create a hybrid publishing company, and you maintain, as you say, control, you probably get a very good product.
You do, and it's ours. And if you put the right team together, both my copy editor, who edits everything I do, she was from worked for all the big five, so she knows that work inside and out. As does the publisher, worked for the big five. They're in business together. They do a great job. We don't miss anything. And then it comes back to me. I have control, and they know my vision. So I don't you can be relaxed taking advice. You're not selling out. That's the key. You can say, all right, we're a team. You think that's better? All right, let's look at that. Versus the publisher, it says we're going to do this, and it
Hmm.
changes your mission altogether. So I like to keep. I know what I'm doing with
Yeah.
this.
Well, with 40 years in your profession, I would
Yeah,
imagine you do. Of
I got an
course.
idea.
Yeah, of course you do. Well, let's start with your latest book, Road to Recovery, the Fix Your Addiction Handbook. Tell me about that.
Well, years ago, I'm one of these psychologists that didn't just stay in private practice. I moved around clinics and worked with deaf people and corporations. I worked in a prison, and while I was in the working with the prison, we needed substance abuse counseling. So I went and got certified in that. Well, it took off, and included in part of my private practice. So, I know the programs inside and out. I've worked in the clinics. I've worked with AA and NA and all those 12-step people. So I thought it was time. Let's put something together. The book has 17 different types of addiction, not just drug and alcohol. All the progression through the addictions, what happens when you're in the grasp of the addiction, the collateral damage for the family, and what to do with each one of the addictions. And then the last 12 chapters is a roadmap, a general roadmap. If you have addiction, these are all the things you can do.
Hmm. Well, I was going to ask you, what type of addictions do you cover? You say 17 of them. I'm just quickly going through my head. probably couldn't name 17 of them. I maybe could name 8 or 9.
Good.
What are some of the more obscure addictions that I can't be thinking about right now?
You might go into things like exercise addiction. People, exercise is healthy for you, but
Yeah.
some people that take it to the point where they are no longer healthy. It's all about body image. It's starving yourself, and just putting what you think is going to feed the image. You might get into things like self-abuse is another one where people can't imagine, people that cut or people that hurt themselves and even break bones, and it changes the way the neurology works, and people do become
Wow.
addicted to doing that, things like that. So we've gone from the more commonplace like substance abuse, and we've gone into some of the more, as you say, the more obscure things people don't think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Workaholism, those things that are more obscure either are the ones like self-abuse you wouldn't think about, or the ones that, gee, we need. We need food. But food can be an addiction,
Yeah.
and it can progress, well, goes in two directions. I eat to the point that I'm obese, or I don't eat and I purge and I starve myself. And it, again, does things in the brain that create an addiction. So it's
Okay.
just helping people understand what
Sure.
all the dynamics of all these addictions, and then what you can do with them.
Right. As a specialist, are able to have different methods to help people depending on the different types of addictions they have
Correct.
as well, I imagine.
Correct. Absolutely. You have to. They all come from basically the same places, an addictive personality. There's changes in the brain. However, how they attach and the progression through, that's always a little bit different.
Right. When someone comes to you and they're depressed, do you try to figure out what they are possibly addicted to without them telling you? Perhaps.
Yeah,
Is
I'm
there?
very, very transparent, very to the point with my people, and they appreciate the honesty. I know they've always said that. If I look at, and it's like I see the depression is there, and I can see some of the things that are going on. I'm also thinking that maybe you're doing some things that are are exacerbating this. Maybe are you drinking? Are you taking a few more of those prescription pills than you should be taking? Things like
Yeah.
that. And most of the time they're pretty honest, or they give me the clues that tell me I'm not
Mhm.
honest yet, but we're going to get there.
Yeah, yes. What about dependency on another person? Marriage is nice. Coupling is obviously good. Love is a wonderful thing. Sometimes people get together and they're codependent, and that can't be healthy. Is that a form of addiction?
It can be. And I talk about that at the end of each chapter, all the various types of addiction, and in those 12 chapters to give them a blueprint, I talk about that. We call it collateral damage. And we talk about codependency and trying to save the addict, and
Mm.
really believing you can, and hiding the addiction so that other people don't see it. And somehow you're going to fix it on your own. Yeah, we talk about a lot of that kind of stuff.
Your first book, and you said it's done very well, the Fix Yourself Handbook. That's very broad. What do you mean by that?
It's interesting you said it's broad. It really figured into the decision to not go with publishers when I say it's broad. It's 36 chapters, 36 different human problems. And the process is to fix them. And when I went to the publishers, they said, "Oh no, you have to give us one or two of these.
Right,
You
right.
can't have 36." They want, and then they said, "Of course, who's your target audience?" And I said, "Everyone." And they said that, they started laughing. That doesn't fly. Most target audience for self-help books are going to be women between 18 and 50, 45.
Okay.
I said, "So you want me to write a book just for those people?" And the rest of the so so I came up with a design which was, we have our chapter title. I do a little quote right after that to kind of help explain what we're going to do. Then we go into the processes we're going to use. We do about 7 or 8 pages, maybe sometimes a little less, of text about the issue. Then I take them right into the advice. Okay, given this information, here's the advice, just like we do in counseling. It's the way it should be.
Okay.
And people like that design, guys particularly who don't want to read, 30 pages. And it was the problem with self-help, I thought. Uh, 30 pages, 40 pages in a chapter. and then no place to go with it. Okay, you showed me all the information you gave me. I can really see. I understand my problem. Now what do I do with it? And they weren't going there. So we thought we include those action steps. It's called the time to take action part of the chapter and do these things. That's the thing I think that kind of brought us over the top.
When you're writing your text at the beginning of a chapter, do you give examples without naming names, but perhaps tell a story that person could relate to? Because yeah, that kind of is happening to me. Is that something you do?
Yeah, I didn't in the first book, and then my copy editor get and said and got and say we need to give examples two ways. One, give an example of this might be, but other thing, we'll actually create a fictitious character. Sally's a 35-year-old housewife, blah blah blah, and then we take it through Sally's issue from the beginnings when it was really difficult to what she could do in order to make it a little bit better, so they can kind of flesh this thing out. They can see, okay, this is how that operated, and it worked for her.
Going back to your latest book, when did you write that?
We just published the Fix Your Addiction Handbook last Wednesday, so we're 5 days into that
Okay.
publication.
And this is November 2024. So keep that
Right.
in mind, people who are viewing this. And it's too early to tell how sales are, but you say your previous
Oh, they're
book.
already brisk.
Oh, really? Excellent.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
that we were readying people. This was going to come out. This would be the next book, and the addiction community embraced it. Organizations, AA is not one, as you may know, that's going to endorse anything. They shouldn't. But their people, their sponsors, the people running meetings, particularly in my local area, are saying, "Yeah, get that to me." Colleges are coming in and saying, "Yeah, we may use this in our addiction courses."
Excellent.
So we're getting to the point where people looked as one professor said, finally I got one where I don't have to get 12 books to do 12 kinds of addiction. You got it all in one, and you gave the blueprint. I've been waiting for this. So when you hear that, it's nice to know you're on the right track.
Yeah. Another reason to have a team. That's great. You
Yes,
you got some good
exactly.
people working with you. What was the book that you wrote directly before your addiction book?
That was the Fix Your Anger Handbook. The way this worked, I did the first one, and then the pandemic hit soon after. And then we went into that. So I started writing. I said, okay, what am I seeing here? Well, anxiety was what I was seeing so much of. So I went with anxiety in the second book. Following that, the pandemic, I watched people getting depressed. So we went to depression for the third one. And then I watched people attacking each other. And in this country, in the United States, we just had a presidential election where it was the nastiest thing I've seen in a long time, and people attacking each other. So anger came next.
As a psychologist, what's your take on the social psychology of our Western civilization, or is that too big a question to answer?
It isn't, it comes under a few headings. A, we're going too fast. We've had a lot, too much, the resources and the comfortable way of life for a long time. We've come to expect it. We're entitled, we think. And particularly for people who work in the so-called progressive part of things, people like to say the left, but whatever it is, there's a tendency to want to keep expanding that and see how far you can push it, and how much you can get and how much you can do differently. And when someone puts the brakes on, that becomes difficult to take. Someone saying no, we don't like to be told no. We
Yeah.
don't like to be told that this is going to slow down, and some of those things you want just aren't going to happen. People react to that.
Okay. On average, how long does it take for you to write a book?
Doesn't take me long. My subject matter is something I've worked with for so long. So I started the Fix Your Addiction Handbook in December of last year. I finished writing the book in the end of March, early April. Then it went to the copy editor, and it's six
That
or
takes time.
2 months. That takes time, because when they do that, then it comes back to me, and I go through all the edits, and we have another person then that puts fresh eyes on it, and then we review it again. So, and then the publishing. So, 3 months, 4 months, I can put a book out.
Yeah. Let's go back to your Fix Your Anxiety book. You wrote that as the pandemic was unfolding and you were seeing some thing happening in society. So did I. It took only about 2 months. The next thing you know, there's mental health issues that were being
Right.
discussed on the news. What is anxiety exactly?
Well, really, it's a physical reaction first. That's I always tell people, go physical. You're going to feel your body tensing up. But there's also some chemical imbalances, neurotransmitter imbalances that are happening. So people are. Everything's overexcited in their brains and they can't turn their minds off. And you get that mind-body connection. Things are they're worried about things. They're what if this is going to happen and what's going to happen to me? And then
Mhm.
the body follows. And next thing you know, everything's tense, and then they just can't turn it off. Between the physical and the emotions overriding the intellect, and they're just having a hard time reasoning through anything.
Yeah. Is it based in fear and uncertainty?
Often, often. If it's not based there, it goes there.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will come in the office and I'll say, well, they'll say, I had a horrible weekend. I was anxious all weekend. And I'll say, did anything happen? No. I said, if you go backward, did you notice that your body kicked in first? Then your mind started to figure out why it's looking for reasons why that was happening. So you started to attach it to certain things. And they said, I never thought about that. Yes, it was my body that I just started. I got up and I was just, I felt that tightness and that irritability. And I said,
Right.
okay, it's physical first. But then what we do is we try to find something that's okay. Maybe it's that thing I have to do, or that party I've got to go to, or that boss that I can't deal with, or whatever it is. We try to find something, and then we're attaching it, and that outside source now gets huge,
Yeah.
and it never really was.
Yeah.
It's the body that's just taking over.
Right. Right. They say our formative years defines us. Do you delve into people's past life and their upbringing as well?
You always do. You really need to be holistic, so to speak, in what you do. People come in and depending on the problem that they're bringing in, if it's just, we had a marriage issue, I went over and I had a thing going with the neighbor. Okay, that's one thing. But when you get into those depression and the anxieties and the ruminating, you always go back and say, okay, well, do you have things that don't have closure, that
Mhm.
PTSD kind of thing that you hold on to and you're giving life to old kinds of things. Let's go find out what those are and clean those up because we're going to try to move forward. And we don't do that, you're going to drag them along with you. So let's get those cleaned up.
Sure. Let's move on to the book that has to do with depression. That's an interesting subject. Can it be circumstantial, depending on what's going on in one's life, as
Yeah.
opposed to something that you're born with? And how do you treat the two different types?
Yeah, the circumstantial is a lot easier to treat. That comes on what you're talking about is things that are happening in your life which tend just there seems to be no solution for them. So, that's the environmental stuff and that's really I don't want to say it's easy for me to work a plan for that. The person has to work through it and sometimes it's difficult, but that's easy. When you get into the things that are genetically based then you're dealing with a lot more body and mind together. You're dealing with family histories, and you want to go back and get family histories if you can. Most people you can do that with. Some of the people that are adopted, some people don't have access to, you know, uh, their natural parents. That can be a little difficult. Some of the genetic tests that we're doing give us a lot more information, but yeah, you want to go back if you can and get as much information about what their family history and what they've experienced through their life is all about.
Can the same be said about anger?
Again, so many kinds of anger.
Mhm.
You may have the reactionary, you may have retaliatory anger, or you may be a person that kind of brings it out in some ways that no one sees. There's all different kinds of anger, and it depends on your circumstances, what you saw growing up, how you're wired. Is substance abuse or anything else involved in that? I mean, I saw anger through the election here, what I call self-righteous anger, but it's anger anyway. Well, I'm going to try to change something. I have a rational, good reason to be angry. Look what this person is doing. But in the meantime, it's anger, and anger will always backfire, will always come back at you.
On average, how long is each of your books?
Depends. The first book was about 260 pages.
Mhm.
The three in the middle are about 200. The last book, The Addiction, had to cover so much. That's about 320 pages.
Fairly easy read for those who are having anger issues or depression, because your chapters are short and concise, as you mentioned. So I can see why they sell.
It's designed that way, John. I looked at when you do this, you say, okay, it's self-help. It's not a novel. And that's a different reader altogether. They like to sit for 3 hours and read.
Sure.
Self-help people don't.
No.
They don't want to sit down for 3 hours. They want to sit there, particularly the men. Give me the Reader's Digest version, if you
Mhm.
will. So I saw that. It's what I've called kind of microwave learning. People want it fast. They want to get me to the end of this thing. What's the punchline? So
Sure.
let's give them the information. Let's condense it. Let's bring it all to a head, and then let's give the steps to take to fix it. And then when the books are done, they can act as reference books. Because if I say, gee,
Yeah.
here I am, I got addiction, and I'm doing that people pleasing thing again, I can go to the chapter on people pleasing, read about 7 or 8 pages, get my action steps, and refresh what I need.
Yeah. And perhaps by reading one book, they're realizing they have other issues like, say, anxiety or anger issues.
Right.
And they say, well, Faust wrote a book on anger. I think I'll pick it up because this one definitely worked for my addictions. Excellent. You have a website, I understand.
I do.
Tell us all about that.
Oh, I wanted to do something a little different, that would give everyone a little information about me. But then what we've done is all the books are there, but we've done excerpts from all the books. So people can go and say, well, do I want to buy this? And it's, well, gee, there are three excerpts here. Let me go see how it
Mhm.
reads. Does that make sense? So we've put that on there. We put my media appearances so they can see me and what I have to say. And then we give a contact link that, hey, you want to get in touch with me, you have some questions, please feel free to do that.
Sounds great. Let's finish off by you giving a pitch of your latest book.
Absolutely. The Fix Your Addiction Handbook is designed to present as many kind of addictions as we can. So 17 go in. I want to give you all the information you need about each of these addictions. I want you to understand, uh, none of these statistics, which we do provide, but I want you to understand how it progresses, how addiction moves from use to abuse to addiction, what happens when you're in the grasp of the addiction, how it affects your family, friends, your job, all those kinds of things. And then I want to give you the steps to deal with each one of these addictions. In the end, I want to give you a comprehensive roadmap. Mine is consistent with 12-step philosophy. I want to give you that so that you understand these are the things anyone can do to get in the way of an addiction, to include family members, how you get help, all the various pitfalls, things that you can avoid. When it's all said and done, I want you to have all the action steps you need that are in place, all the numbers that you need to call, all of us that are available on the national and local levels. And when it's all said and done, I also want you to have a reference book that you can refer back to anytime if you start slipping a little bit.
Sounds great. Any plans for any future books?
We're just starting the new book. I'll be doing the outline probably in the next few weeks. That'll be the Fix Your Abuse Handbook. We're going to go
Mm.
into about I think it's 12 or 13 different kinds of abuse, ranging from simple verbal all the way through to uh, so-called modern slavery, that type of
Okay.
thing.
All
But we're
right.
going to take it right through the whole gamut. And that one we expect will be ready probably by mid
Okay.
2025.
Is that for people who realize of themselves that they're being abusive or people who are being abused?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, if you're
Well,
going to do this,
yeah.
if you only present one side, you're kind of given half the
Mm,
information. So it's
yeah.
just like as I did with the addiction book, wrote it for the addicts and for family members and
Okay.
ones
Very
close.
good. Very good.
So we'll do the same thing with the abuse book.
All right. Well, when you do write that book, and if you want to come back, I'll gladly have you on as a repeat guest. I love repeat guests. It's like having an old friend come back.
Sounds great. I love
All
it.
right. All right, Faust. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Same here. God bless.
Bye-bye. thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, and if you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then I invite you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment if you wish. And if you are an author, I would sure love to hear from you. Until such time, keep on writing, and remember to be kind to one another.